does this to humans as well. That's why genitals, I don't care if you're black or white, are a third the size they were of a 1960s male. So the media makes jokes about that a few months ago when I gave the example of, if your daddy's Johnson was a foot long, yours is 6 inches long. And if yours was 6 inches, your son will be 3 inches. And the one with them won't even have a penis. So you make jokes about that all day long, but this isn't a game. And you can say, okay, well, who cares? Well, we're sterilized.
I don't even know where to start, I guess. Look, that's tragic, honestly. If you had fond memories of your daddy's foot-long penis and you're looking down thinking, I got nothing, and you look at your kid, that pathetic kid, he's not gonna bring it. It doesn't matter how puberty, whatever, he's got nothing. That's Alex Jones.
He's just telling on himself. Like, do you realize he's telling on himself not only that he's got a small Johnson, but that he looks at his dad's and maybe his son's kind of a lot.
Oh my God.
Or maybe, look, I understand many people are gonna go there and think that it's personal. It doesn't have to be. Maybe he remembers seeing a bunch of bigger penises decades ago. And now when I go around looking randomly in bathrooms like a creep, I'm not impressed by what I see, maybe. Sure. Now look, I have this need deep inside of me. The same way he has a need to perv on people's penises whenever he has a chance. I have a need to be as fair as possible. And so, it is not that there is nothing to this, but before we ruin this segment by diving into the facts, please feel free to weigh in and have fun.
Yes, so first of all, what I got out of the story was the war on math. He's like, it's a third of the size. 12 inches is now 6 inches, 6 inches is now 3 inches. Okay. All right, and then I didn't even think about how he was looking at his dad. So I don't even want to think about that. Okay, so that's an interesting point.
Oh my God.
But there's no question he's been looking at his going, what happened? What happened? It was the Democrats. Okay, if you say so, brother. If you say so. And if it's true, I mean, thanks God. Otherwise, whew, I mean, I don't know.
This is his WAP moment. Like, you know how Shapiro told on himself when he was like, that is a medical condition if you have a WAP. And my wife never, ever, ever in a million years has ever had a, like, and then Alex Jones being like, it's too small. You're like, can they stop telling on themselves? Do they know what they're doing?
Yeah, and just because like time is passing and things are changing doesn't mean that it's societal. Like everyone around the world, as I've aged, has gotten heavier and their knees aren't as good and they don't feel like going out as late at night. Like maybe it's just about you. Honestly, like these conservatives, the answer to all of their problems is therapy, but they will go to these great lengths to avoid having to do it. Now, that said, it is not impossible that things could be affecting male organ size or virility or fertility. And so I have been looking into a lot of this different stuff. I made the mistake of initially in looking for supplementary information, I Googled Alex Jones penis, bad idea, shouldn't have done that. I did, however, find an interesting montage of all of the times that he defended the size of Donald Trump's penis. It's come up from time to time, the topic, not the penis. So anyway, here are the things that I was able to find. So first of all, easiest answer to this is age. Erections naturally get smaller and less firm as a person ages, according to urologists. One said the penis can lose about 1 centimeter of length from your rock solid 30s to when you're in your about to retire 60s. The difference, honestly, is minute, and many men may not even notice it. An equally simple explanation is increased body weight can provide the illusion of a smaller penis, so that's something to look into. Now that said, his answer is they're putting something in the water that is simultaneously making the frogs gay and shrinking your Johnson. That's what they're doing. They are doing that. I don't know who, he's not specific. And honestly, I'm afraid to ask because I'm worried in the end he'll say it's Jewish people or something like that. But anyway, that is not to say that there aren't things being put into the water that are having these effects. It's just not necessarily the Rothschilds that are doing it. So Dr. Shanna Swan has been talking about this for some time, talking about chemicals like phthalates, which can over time lower testosterone levels and potentially have an effect on the development of genitals. So phthalates can be found in things like toys, detergents, nail polish, soaps, and more. But the very important thing about those is they're not being added to all of these products by the government to purposefully shrink your junk. They're being added by corporations that are not being properly regulated. And they will continue to add these things to these products until the government steps in and stops them. And so Alex Jones, who's worked himself into a literal frothing rage over this, is getting all of his followers to hate the government over this topic when the government is the only thing that can potentially save them. Because honestly, this is beyond even personal consumer choice at this point. You cannot escape all of these chemicals, the phthalates and the BPAs and all that. It's in the water, it's in everything at this point.
And but we can potentially you can buy Alex Jones's juice. This juice will help you grow much longer and better than your daddy. Like, it's all to sell his supplements. I'm
sorry. Gotta be a better name for that. There's just gotta be. Anyway, by the way, can we jump for a second to the last graphic I have? Because that was actually one of my explanations before I was talking about this. It says super male vitality, now $52.45. So for $52, and that's a deal. It's a little bit cheaper. You can, I don't know if you ingest that or if you lotion with it, I don't know, but it'll make you even stronger.
Where do you put the tincture? Ooh. Where does it?
I don't want to know.
Okay, so I mean, look. The bottom line is, I want to get to the nuance in a second too, because I think you have to know the actual facts. But basically, Alex Jones is saying here, the Democrats shrunk my penis, and by the way, and the only way that you could fix it, mine or yours, is buying this product of mine. It gives you male vitality for $52. Okay, it's the most obvious snake oil that you've ever seen in your life, except unless you're a right winger. The reports are from court documents. That he did $165 million in sales in 3 years from that snake oil stuff. Not just that potion, but all the junk that he's selling on his thing. And that's part of the whole point of his show, is to scare the bejesus out of people, honestly the most ignorant people in the country, and get them to buy things that don't make any sense at all, because they're worried that their junk is too small. But if they take Alex Jones's stuff, it's gonna grow like you said, like their daddies. Ugh, Jesus Christ.
Weird. It's so weird.
Okay, so now onto the nuance. Look, guys, as John pointed out, there are real toxins that are going into the environment, the water, the air, etc., and they're all being put out by corporations in order to sell things. There's just a great variety of them, and we've reported on them. But so how do you know what's right and what's wrong? Well, a lot of people do studies, right? The actual scientists. And they literally measure things, including testosterone, yes, and including size and all of those things. And then sometimes they'll put together a collection of studies called a meta study, and where it is filled to the rim with facts. And so sometimes those studies will say, hey, the testosterone level has dropped. It's dropped by 25, 33%, etc. They'll have a real number attached to it, right? And then they'll show you the toxins that are the most likely cause. But since it's science, they're not positive, because you need to study it more and more and more until you have overwhelming evidence, because that's how science works. It doesn't work with going, my daddy used to have a bigger junk, what the hell's going on, right? So no, they actually measure these things, and then they tell you the most likely causes. And the number one possibility is deregulation of corporations. Because in the past, the government was supposed to protect you. That's the core job of the government, whether it's the cops, it's the fire department, it's the military, or regulation of corporations. Hey, don't put weird chemicals in the water because it could affect the testosterone that men are getting. That's a reasonable way to look at this and go, and by the way, just so you're clear, there are no studies that say that the male penis has shrunk by either a third or a half in a generation. None say that, because that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, totally made up by Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And there's no correlation also to like levels of testosterone, like sperm efficacy or like whatever, like your ability to reproduce and penis size. That is the same, BS toxic masculinity that Tucker and Alex Jones, they peddle in all the time, and it has no bearing in scientific fact whatsoever. And so yeah, should there be fewer PCBs in in terms of like if you're drinking bottled water all the time? Yeah. You know, and that's huge, but we gotta regulate the plastics industry. But of course we can't do that if the government is always the enemy and if the government secretly has a plan. It's like, actually, there's no plan for corporate corruption, just kind of there, omnipresent.
Yeah, that's the true invisible hand. And he will identify this problem. He'll get it totally wrong in every way, but he'll be onto something, and then he will support politicians that will stop literally any of the regulations that might actually help you. And that's here in the United States. He'll also stop any international coordination that would stop it internationally, because this is a problem beyond just our borders. I do want to really fast thank him though, because just in bringing this up and talking a bit about the phthalates, which we have talked about before on the network and on TDR, it is a reminder that we have this very difficult position where the environment is one of many things that we need to make sure that we cover, that make sure that we focus on. And honestly, over the past few years, because of how high the stakes are in the climate crisis specifically, even I, a person who tries to do a lot of environmental coverage, that has had a very disproportionate amount of my talk about the environment. And it is obviously very significant for our species, for our world. But it isn't the only thing. Look, Francesca, you mentioned air pollution. A new study showed 9 million deaths a year we're up to now, just from regular old air pollution. That's not a carbon specific thing, that's just pollution.
Yeah.
The phthalates and the BPA and all of this, these are all environmental concerns that are not specifically about climate change. All of this at the end of the day is a reminder that we need to be centering and focusing on protecting the environment. And unfortunately, while Alex Jones brought up the topic, he is not gonna be an ally in that, not in any way.
Hey John, you'd get more clicks if you made it about your junk. I'm just gonna be real. You made it about your junk.
Yeah. Last couple of things, I got to build off of what you guys said. So John, I know why he's not telling you the real reason, which is deregulation of corporations, because it's a false flag operation. Or in this case, a false flag poll operation, because okay, and the reason is, if you think about it, right? Alex Jones makes money from things that you think will increase your junk, right? So if the corporations are putting toxins in that affect your testosterone and other things, he would want that to keep happening, so you'll buy his junk, right?
Kills. So let's not use the word junk.
Yes, apparently there isn't much to buy there. So I meant his products. And then and by the way, Joe Rogan, you're telling your audience, he just said it the other day, like 3 days ago or something. He's like, no, Alex Jones is right about a lot of things. I mean, you got to give the guy a lot of credit. So I don't know what's going on with Joe and his situation, okay? But you cannot endorse an obvious lunatic unless you want people to think you're a lunatic.
Yeah.
Okay, now ironically though, I'll say, I've also learned from Alex Jones based on what you guys were just saying, and Francesca said it. So from now on, you know how we sell Too Strong coffee? Too Strong coffee, it'll make you too strong. I mean, come on.
Too strong.
Imagine if we said stuff like that. It'd be so out of character. You'd be like, what? No, you guys do the truth. Yeah. But for Alex Jones' audience, they're like, oh yeah, I bet it does.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.